Hi everyone, David Chan here, Yorkton MLA, and we're doing something a little bit different. This is all basically off the cuff. I have with me one of my constituents, someone who lives here. Actually, I should ask, do you live here? Are you even my constituent? Why am I helping you?
I live here.
Okay, so good, now that that's settled. It's constituents only. No, just kidding. I have with me,
Ummi Ummar from the YHS.
yeah, and Ummi, why are we having this conversation today?
So the YHS has a club called Model United Nations, and this club has run for a very long time, up until 2023, where it had to stop because of the loss of a teacher. And so I reached out to see if we could get any form of support because we need some funds to attend the Canadian High School Model United Nations Conference. This conference would cost $325 for each student, and there are currently 4 of us that are willing to go, and it would cost $650 for each chaperone, but we have 1 chaperone. And basically, the more members that join this club, the more money we would need. And so I reached out to see if we would get any form of support to help with that.
Right, and so I have the email from Ummi. Did you already say that you're in grade 12?
Yes.
And okay, so it turns out I'm not a very good podcast host. I'm doing my best, first one. But yes, so Ummi reached out. We received an email in the office here, and I think first off, I think it's amazing. My assistant can attest to this. This is a really, really well written email. You can say yes off camera if you want to. I was actually, legitimately, I was really impressed. Where did you learn to write? I don't think I've ever read such a well-written email.
So I've been doing debate ever since I lived in Nigeria, since like grade 6.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing debate. I've been very good at public speaking right from a very young age. So maybe that's where I got my writing skills from. I took a creative writing class last semester. It was only 1 semester, but I think that helped as well. I also like to talk. My family says I like to talk a lot, so maybe that's where that comes from too.
That's amazing. I won't ask you if you used any AI or.
I didn't. You can check. I didn't.
No. Whenever I remember writing things like this, whenever I did, I always would take it to my mom or someone and be like, "Can you proofread this?" Which is okay to do, but yeah, I was really impressed with your email. It's so well written, and you're involved with a number of leadership roles and activities.
Yes.
What is the SRC? It says here in your email that you're SRC president at the Yorkton Regional.
So the SRC is the Student Representative Council. So basically, I'm the president of the whole school. And basically, we represent the school to the administration. So if the students have a problem with anything in the school, they can come to me or my vice president, and we would relay that to the school during our regular SRC meetings.
Okay, so you're student council.
Yes.
President. That's pretty amazing. Did you have to campaign?
I had
for
to
that?
campaign. Yes.
Good. That's amazing. Way to go. And so you're a student council president, and you're also wanting to revive the Yorkton Regional High School Model United Nations Club.
Yes.
Which was functioning, but now it's not.
Yes.
Right. And are you involved in any other?
I am a part of Yorkton Regional High School Drama Club. I'm a part of the Yorkton Regional High School Social Activism Club. I am a part of the Yorkton Regional High School Students Against Distracted Driving Club. I used to be a part of the Yorkton Regional High School Debate Club, but that doesn't exist anymore. I plan on joining the YHS badminton team. What else am I a part of? I'm a part of the leadership, but it's not a club, it's a class, so I'm part of leadership. Yeah, those are the clubs that I'm doing as of right now. Yeah. I do Skills Canada as well.
That's all. I'll try to be more serious here. I think that's really amazing. Like that's a lot of participation, involvement, and you're also, you were saying earlier, Air Cadets.
Yes.
Right. Which
I'm part of Air Cadets here in Yorkton.
What motivates you to participate in so many different things?
I like to put myself out there. Initially is because my cousin would always go on these like fun trips to all these places, and I was like, how can I go on these trips? And so my mom was like, join these clubs. But now I actually like them, and it's not for the trips anymore. I just want to put myself out there and put myself into these different positions. Also because there's this common stereotype that if you're not an athlete, you can't be involved in the school as much.
Right.
And I'm trying to break that stereotype and say, no, you can be like in other clubs, not just sports. So that's why I'm more club-based than sports team-based. I wasn't blessed in the sports area, unfortunately.
No. And you said you came here from Nigeria?
Yes. Came here from Nigeria a little over 2 years ago, in September of 2022.
Oh, only 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh. How do you find Canada? How do you find Yorkton?
Very cold.
Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Very cold.
What's been the fair enough. Yes. No arguments here. And what's been one of the most surprising things for you?
One of the most surprising things is how helpful people are here. I expect people to be a lot more mean to me because in Nigeria, there's lots of people. There's like 250 million people that live in that country. So in a city or like in a neighborhood, there's like so much people. And everybody wants their space, but they can't have it because there's so much people. However, here in Yorkton, you're allowed to have your space while having people around you. Like let's say the population of Yorkton helps it in the sense that it's not so much people where people are not wanting to venture out into the community and help others. It's just the right amount of people where Yorkton is populated, but then everybody wants to help and everybody wants to pitch in.
You found Yorkton to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a really helpful and connected community here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah, Yorkton's really special in that way, I
Yes.
think. What has been one of the best aspects that you found?
One of the best aspects that I found is Yorkton and its appreciation for the people that live here. When I first got here, one of the first things that I was told to look forward to is the June Days celebration in June. I was wondering, why should I look forward to this? And then my cousin explained to me that, like so many people come out and they celebrate all these different cultures. And I thought it was so nice and so amazing. In Nigeria, we don't really have things like that to celebrate people from other countries. So the fact that I can be in this community and not have to do so much to learn about other people was very nice, yeah.
So it helped you make connections?
Yes.
And that was meaningful to you?
Yes.
That's really good to hear. You know, it's really neat to hear from your perspective, you know, how the June Days matter to you. I believe they're sponsored by YBID, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, way to go, YBID, on setting up June Days. So part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because this, like, as an MLA, I don't have a budget I don't have access to a budget to fund a trip like this directly. But what I have reached out to some of the ministries to see if there's anything available, and I'm waiting to hear back. But I thought, you know, at the very least, maybe we could give you some exposure and help with your fundraiser.
Yeah.
I think I've got about 9 followers on my Facebook, and so one of them has to have a few bucks in their pocket to give to you. So I'm hoping that they'll be generous and dig deep, and
Okay.
you know, what about the this trip, the Model United Nations Club, appeals to you?
I've always been a very curious person, and this particular club, or say activity, allows me to research and dig deep into other countries, their politics, and their overall stance on certain global issues. And I find that very interesting because sometimes the things that you don't even think countries are supposed to have a stance on, you find out that countries do have a stance on. For example, there's this business conglomerate called LVMH. They own Louis Vuitton, Sephora, all the luxury fashion stuff. Now, before looking into Model UN, I was like, why would a country have a stance on something like this? But no, they actually do. And so this is why I decided to join this club, and this is why I'm so passionate about reviving it, because I feel like not only me, but so many other people should have the opportunity to look into all these things, because I think it's very interesting.
So you find you're interested in the political engagement
Yes.
and to learn more about other cultures and
Yes.
other countries.
Yes.
Besides Nigeria and Canada, have you had exposure to other countries already and
Not
other?
really, no.
And so what piqued your interest in exploring this route, or wanting to learn more, etc.?
Because my debate partner in while I was in grade 10 was a part of this club, and she was representing the United States of America that time, and she would always tell me about her findings in her research, and then other people in our debate club would tell me about their findings and their research from their country, and so I became very intrigued and very curious that I wanted to be a part of this, and I wanted to explore other countries.
That's really neat. I am. Is the United Nations something that you have thought about in the past?
Not entirely. The closest thing that I was told, like from a very young age, is that if you're an ambassador of a country, you'll make everybody proud and you'll make so much money. But then I never thought of it past that. However, as I grew older and I got to like grade 10, I started realizing that, oh, the United Nations actually does so much for like countries around the world. Like I started to see it not only as like a name for every country on earth, I started to see it as an organization on its own. So I started to see its responses to humanitarian issues and humanitarian crises. And I was like, wow, I should look into this. And so that was how my curiosity about United Nations peaked in. I started looking into it.
Cool, that's really neat. Well, Ummi, is there anything that you would like to tell us about that I haven't really asked about?
Something that I would like to talk about is my age, specifically because I'm 16 right now and I'm in grade 12 and I will graduate at the age of 16, which is 2 years younger than everybody else. And so I've always been told, oh, you're 16, you shouldn't be worrying about these things. You're 16, like you shouldn't be putting all this pressure on yourself. But these are things that I'm very passionate about, and I don't think my age should be necessarily a factor that comes between me and these things. Because like I feel like if anything should stop me from going to this conference, it should be, oh, I've either broken my leg, I've died, or I wasn't able to raise enough money. It shouldn't be something like my age, in my opinion. So that's why
you're not too young to have interest in these things that are generally or typically tend to be more, adult or topics, right? Or topics that adults are interested in. Yeah, you're never too young, really. It's just what you're interested in, really, right? And I think that's pretty amazing. It's probably unique. Everyone has different interests and passions, and you don't typically see someone who's 16 interested in the UN or politics. I'm going to ask you some somewhat political questions now, okay? And this may or may not be, on our interview, but the UN is seen by some as a force for good, right? But there's also controversy around it. Are you aware of any controversy?
I haven't done enough research to know off the top of my head specific examples, but I feel like if they didn't have controversy, they wouldn't be the UN. I feel like in order to be a successful organization that does so much for countries all around the world, you have to have some sort of controversy. You have to have people that agree with you. Because if everybody is, someone used to tell me back when I was in Nigeria, like if everybody is your friend, no one's your friend. So I feel like if you don't have any form of controversy and you're a big organization that does so much, then I don't think you're doing your job right, in my opinion.
That's a really insightful observation, in my opinion. I think you're a very interesting person to talk to, for one, but I really commend you on your growth and maturity as a young person, and all the things that you've done to develop your interests and develop your passions. By the way, that was her debate skills in display, in action, because none of these questions have been rehearsed. This is all off the cuff. Really, that's a pretty good answer. I'm going to get down to a little bit of the bones of it. There are a lot of people who, so the UN was set up to move the global community, let's say, of nation states towards greater cooperation and peace, right? So in its predecessor basically came out of World War II. Actually, I might be wrong on that. Might have been World War One. And now that I think about it, it might have been World War One. I think it was called the League of Nations.
Mm-hmm.
You're aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then it changed into the UN. And so the premise of it was that we never ever want to see another world war, right? And so we want to set up institutions and processes to have greater cooperation, and then I think it even grew into addressing issues and concerns that were what's the word I'm looking for? Were supposedly and sometimes were, well, let's just say they were beyond the ability of any one nation to address, right? And so there's that's sort of a really basic overview of the United Nations, and it became a lot about addressing, cooperating as nations to address, global poverty and health and stuff like that. One of the issues with the United Nations or one of the controversies around it, is that they have a major influence over policy, but none of them are elected, and none of them, or at least they're not accountable to the democratic process that exists within the boundaries of a nation state, right? And those accountabilities are really, really important. You can imagine why, right? Because without that, then the voters, the people, don't have a say over things that affect them, right? The other controversy around, there are many controversies, but another controversy around the United Nations is that there are nations within that group that are clearly dominant and more powerful, and other nations who, who don't have as much of a voice, et cetera, for a variety of reasons. And then I know they've built in as best they can accountability measures within their own processes, but ultimately there is no ultimate. I'm not supposed to say ultimate over and over, but there's no ultimate accountability, because again that you can't really vote them out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on? You can pick any of those controversies.
I feel like, for both controversies actually, I feel like the United Nations, in its core values, meant well. How they chose to execute that is probably where the controversies are stemming from. And in no way is the United Nations a perfect organization. I feel like they are just trying to do what is beneficial, or what is going to be what is going to suit every country that is a part of that organization. Because, for example, their way of holding people accountable might suit one country and it might not suit the others. It also might be agreed on by one country and it might not be agreed on by the others. So I feel like the idea of having no form of accountability, while it is dangerous and detrimental, it's almost an escape route, because they're gonna upset somebody at some point if they try to put some sort of system in place. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the lack of it is, I'm not sure, I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if this is something that they have been working on, but I feel like as of right now, based on what you've told me, the lack of it seems like an attempt to remain neutral, and make sure that no one is upset and no one is too happy, if that is coming off. I don't know if that is making sense.
Well, you know what I would say? Like, I would love to see you be able to participate in this trip, for your own learning and everything. That what I would say is, a lot of times, organizations like the UN are just accepted as a blanket good, and without there isn't really an investigation and question. What I would ask you to do, if we can pull this off, and we'll do, we'll do what we can to support you. Putting this out on the community and things like that. But what I would really ask you or even challenge you to do is to step back from taking an assumption or a position on the UN and really start to ask, like, what's the bird's eye of this organization, and kind of do some research into some of the issues that surround it, and like, yeah, for example, I think the first issue that I mentioned is probably the most pertinent one, because the whole system of democracy was developed out of a need and a desire to ensure that the atrocities of tyranny never occur, right? And so there were some very specific institutions and systems and that were set up to ensure that. And if you do a comparative analysis of different systems of governance, it's a very clear picture. It's not really a question of relativity where it's like, well, this works for some, this works for others. I'm willing to say that democracy is superior, to the alternative, say communism, for example, or dictatorships, etc. As far as nation states go, right? And the problem with the UN is that you have unelected officials that are now making decisions for people, whether that's what's the word for it? Whether that's officially or virtually. And when I say virtual, I don't mean virtual through the computer. I mean that they might not officially have the power of force to say you have to do this, but because they have so much influence and so much access to institutions of influence, they virtually have the ability to shape policy in nation states that they have not necessarily a connection to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So maybe this is going too deep into the weeds for you, but I want you, if you do get to go, I want to challenge you to go there with an open mind, but also with a curious mind.
Yes.
To ask some of the, and I think you are sharp enough to do that, and maybe you'll come away thinking the UN is a great force for good, and whatever the pitfalls are, we still need it. Or maybe you might look at some of the stories of people who feel that their voices or their needs or whatever their interests are not being represented. And I'll say one more thing. We have a diversity of nations there. But something that a lot of times you find in bodies like that is when it comes to the trajectory and the solutions that are being examined, you may not have as much of a diversity of thought. Do you understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so those are another thing to look at. Not just that there's different opinions, that difference of opinions on, how do we execute this? How do we do this? How do we accomplish this goal? Well, maybe we should do this. That's not what I'm talking about diversity of thought. I'm talking a diversity of thought is a difference of approach and a difference of direction. Maybe we shouldn't go that direction. Maybe we should go this direction. Maybe that's not how we should, view this subject. Maybe we should view it with a different lens, right? So, does any of this make sense to you, what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's my challenge to you. And I really appreciate your time. You have the last word. Is anything else you'd like to say, or?
The last thing I'd like to say is I just hope that we get to attend this conference, not just for myself, but for other students who are a part of this group, and for students that are in younger grades right now that would want to follow in my footsteps and keep the club going after I graduate. I would also like to carry out the mission that you just gave me. I'm a very competitive person, so I don't want, because even if I don't go to this conference, I will do the research. I will get back to you. I have to complete this mission. I must. So, yeah. I
can tell you don't like to lose a debate, and if you ever have, you probably, or if you ever have, is what I meant to say. Thank you so much for your time. Ummi, Ummar, everyone from Nigeria, 2 years in Canada. It's amazing to see such leadership, and thinking about the next generation paving the way. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.